Hello, welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. Today is going to be character number 16 in the 115 character color palette challenge, and today's color palette is Blastoise. As you can kind of see on my screen here, it's this kind of very primary, more masculine style color palette, and I felt that it lended itself towards a more boathouse style fashion. So I'm going to try to make a boathouse style fashion magical villain. So hopefully I can come up with something that hasn't already been done 20 million times, because naval and boathouse fashion is very, not so much niche, just very hard to innovate. So let's see what happens. I had kind of one main design in mind, and I was thinking that was too boring. And so before I get started on the other design, which I actually do end up keeping, I thought about pushing it in a more fantastical, like almost I don't want to say like superhero, supervillain type direction, but that is kind of how it ends up looking. It's kind of like someone that could have been fighting in Aquaman's court type situation. And even though I do like this sketch that I'm working on now, like I mentioned, I don't work on it. I do keep it, so it is still saved in my drawing folder. I just don't do anything more with it beyond the sketch, because I figured it was too different from the other villains, because it's really only the magical heroes that look super typical shoujo style, whereas the villains are more in line with high fashion style, like because you have the prep and then you had avant-garde, which avant-garde is always going to be a little over the top, but we're coming back to a more prep style fashion with the boathouse, yacht club, daddy's money type aesthetic. And so I just kind of went with, your typical like sort of naval tailorings with the sailor's jacket, and then for the clothing, just a simple like, the striped shirt and the boardwalk shorts, and the boathouse shoes, which quick eyes, which you'll see it again as I'm doing the line art, would have noticed that I for some reason put socks with the shoes when you typically don't wear socks with boathouse shoes for obvious reasons. You're going to be on the water, you don't want your socks to get wet. So the socks stay for a good portion of the video until I go back to my references and realize, oh, nobody in this reference is wearing socks, so I get rid of that. So right now I'm just kind of figuring out what kind of silhouettes I want to play with. Because this palette is so simple, I had to give myself a lot of little trinkets to play with, so I had more surfaces to put particular colors. And then overall, the story behind this character is, as mentioned, a very like daddy's money type. This character is probably named like Chaz Michael Chuck or something like that. Just that type of person. Where his father, on one of his voyages, came across this ancient set of artifacts, and he gave them to his son as like, I don't know, like a birthday present or something. And so now he has this ancient spear and this necklace and this bracelet that controls water, and he can create storms and lightning and all this stuff. So that's his villain powers. He's always on the water, canoeing, yachting, whatever, and would most likely pretty much be like an arch nemesis of the jellyfish girl that we drew not too long ago. And that's also kind of a reason why I didn't want him to be too like over the top fantasy magical, because I wanted their aesthetics to be kind of in competing houses, whereas if I had kept him more fantastical, they would look more like they could be on the same team, and I do want them to have a very clear distinction between the heroes and the villains. And then of course he has his two companions here, his seagulls named Benjamin and Franklin. So I don't know. I just thought that was amusing. I kept giggling to myself about that while I was working on this. Because what else are you going to call your two little seagull companions, if not something hearkening to your status as this, you know, boat boy with tons of time and money? And so, yeah, his seagull companions are Benjamin and Franklin. They are also magical. And you'll see as I'm putting in the color blocking and more towards the end that they're not regular seagulls. They have magic powers too. He kind of has like a link through them where he can see through their eyes, and kind of like a Hunin Moonin situation. And yeah, I do, after, of course, laying out, figuring out where I want the colors to go, clean everything up off screen, because again, that's partially one of the things that takes the longest about these characters, is just the cleanup, because I can get kind of messy when I'm just laying colors down, and just figuring out how to push the more magical side of things. So I only use the colors that are on the color palette, but I do use a gradient to kind of push that this is a magical artifact and not just like this kind of cool looking like replica of a staff, but like this is like an actual thing that has like this ancient sea power. And then I just do a little detailing on the coat and a lot of piping and striping to pull a lot of the color story throughout the character. Initially, when I was looking at this, when I was working on this, the boldest part was the coat, which I actually didn't mind because it drew a lot of attention towards the middle of the canvas. So your attention was drawn to like the middle of the character, kind of where most of the action is happening. But then I pull the red throughout, because with the red being the most vibrant color, it helps you not just stick in that one area of the canvas, but you're looking throughout the whole design, and it just pulls together this more nautical feeling of the outfit together overall. So it's pretty much, you know, it behind the design. This design for me, like I had to push myself to make it fun for me to draw, because I don't particularly like, naval fashion looks very clean, very put together. It's, you know, it's well done. When the tailoring is impeccable, on point, whatever you want to call it, it looks good. But to me, it's not the most interesting style to draw because it is so clean tailored. I like stuff that has a lot of stuff going on, and this, I had to kind of make it boathouse my way to make it more interesting, and I think I was able to pull that off. Let me know in the comments what you think, what you would have done differently. It also really does help that I recently finished watching Next in Fashion, which had some naval and military styling challenges to help pull some inspiration from there. But yeah, now I'm just kind of cleaning up and adding some background elements, cleaning up the waves a little bit to differentiate between this like big bold piece of red in the back, so that there's equal attention on the background and the foreground. But that is today's character, character number 17. I misspoke in the beginning. Character number 17. This is our fourth magical villain in the Magical Heroes and Villains series. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for the next one. And until then, have a weird day.